Happy Friday, friends! Today I am very excited because I am going to be talking to you about one of my very favorite things in the world, which is color and color mixing. I've been putting off making this video because I'm a little bit nervous to teach about color. It's something I love so much and I've been studying most of my life. But there's always still so much you can learn. I'm even going to show you something I just learned about this last year, which is called the CMYK color wheel, which I went my whole life in lots of art schools without really knowing about necessarily. So this is just the first of many videos. I think we'll be doing kind of a basic color wheel, which I've sketched out for you here today. And then I'm going to leave you with an art challenge for the weekend. But I decided not to put it off anymore because I would tell my students to just start and not be afraid. So that's what I'm trying to do. I wanted to share with you, this is the first watercolor palette I really ever remember. It was from my Aunt Carrie. I'm sure my parents gave me some too, but for some reason this is the one that I've had my whole life. And I'll put a picture at the end of some of my collection of color palettes now. So it's good to know the basics of color mixing. But then there are so many, there are literally thousands, probably as many. I mean, every time you mix, you're mixing a new color. But there are lots of colors with names, and there's lots of different types of palettes, lots of different types of paint and tones. So we're going to do sort of the basics today, and then I'll show you some other fun things. In other videos, we'll learn more about like hue and tone and making sort of a range of colors. So I'm going to put this one away. It's a beautiful, I think these are probably, I don't know, they're probably like 30 years old, this color box. So I'm going to put that away for now. I'm going to use a pretty basic color mixing kit that you can find in most stores. One thing I do want to add is that this is the Crayola Educational Watercolors. They're not the only brand, but they're a good starting brand kind of for a student. There's student grade paint and then artist grade paint, and I think these are pretty good. You get a lot of nice colors. I would not buy the washable if you can avoid it, because washable, the colors just end up not being very bright, but that's just my opinion. So we are going to mix, I shouldn't say super basic color wheel, because we're going to mix up to the tertiary colors. So I'll teach you about the primary colors, the secondary colors, and then the tertiary colors are a little bit more advanced, but they're going to be part of your color wheel challenge. So this is kind of the color wheel we'll be working towards. And I got really excited and made you a basic color wheel. I bought this super fancy watercolor paper in Italy last summer, and of course have not used any of it because I'm scared to. So I thought quarantine is a great time to use our fancy art supplies. But you can do this with any paper. If you have thicker paper, though, it's kind of nice, the paint. It's just nice to use a little bit thicker paper because the water will soak in and make it soggy. So first we're going to start by painting our primary colors. So primary colors, I'll kind of put this in the beginning to start. Your primary colors are red. I'm going to wake up my watercolors a little. And I like to keep nice clean water. I have two. You can kind of keep two if you know you're going to be using black and a lot of dark colors, and then one that's more clear. But red, yellow. Put this out here so you can see actually. And remember, this is what I tell my students. Take a dip in between colors. Now when I'm painting, I really don't, and you'll see that some of my own color palettes are pretty mixed up, but it's good to keep your colors nice and clear. So those are our primary colors, so I'll put them in here too, so we can use them for mixing. So the primary colors are the colors that they're basically what sets all the other color wheel, all the other colors, what you mix to get all the other colors. So they're kind of like the primordial or the most basic elemental colors. So it's kind of hard to live paint. I'm going to be picky with how I do this, but I'll try not to. Just try and go pretty quickly here, because if you've been my student, you know I like to talk, or if you know me at all, I'll try and keep this video pretty short for you. So I'm going to start by painting my primary colors. You can see I've kind of made this triangle with, oh, and that's going to bug me if I don't go fix it. So one nice thing about this nicer watercolor paper is if you can almost use your brush like an eraser. See how I'm kind of using that to wet it, and then I'm going to go blot with a little bit of clean Kleenex and just pick that up off the paper. So if you want to follow me along at home, you can get your red, make it a little bit brighter. There you go. It's going to spread a little differently because I've gotten the paper wet. We've got our red. Next, we're going to do our yellow, and I'm keeping them nice and clean. I'm going to put them in here so you can kind of keep track of how the color relationships work. So I put a P on all the primary ones, and I've also made the shapes different. I think making a color wheel is just fun practice. I know it seems kind of simple, but you can actually get pretty involved in it. And it helps me remember the different color relationships, because that's something we'll talk about in another video, but whether they're across from each other on the color wheel or whether they're right next to each other, colors have different color relationships to each other. So I made different shapes, but you don't have to, but it just kind of helps me keep track. All right, we've got our yellow. And I should say that there are many, many, many types of yellows with different tones, just like many different reds and blues, but I like to pick kind of your basic, sort of straightforward red, yellow, and blue when we're making a color wheel, because you can sort of see the purest form of that. So we'll do the blue. Oh yeah, I'll make it over here so you can kind of see that. Hopefully you can see this at home. Actually, normally I would be turning my paper, but I don't want to mess up the camera angle, so we'll just keep it like this. All right. So those are our primary. Oop, and you can see my red bled a little bit, but that's okay. That's something cool that watercolor does, is bleed. It's not ideal in that part, but that's all right. So next we're going to make our secondary colors. And an easy way to remember secondary colors is secondary is like 2. So think of second, it means 2 colors. So you need 2 colors to get a secondary color. And the thing I like about color wheels is that it's pretty easy to map them out. So I have red and yellow, and the color in between that one is going to be orange. So when you mix red and yellow, you get orange. So I do have orange on here, but I want to actually mix it for you. So I'm going to put a little red in here. I'm going to rinse it. Going to get a little more yellow in here. So we want to get one kind of right in the middle. So I would say that one is pretty close, but maybe needs a little bit more yellow to be kind of a balanced orange. What do you think? I think that one looks pretty good. Okay. Well, maybe I'll try and keep that in the middle as long as I can. So that's my orange. So my orange is my secondary color in between red and yellow. I'm breaking my own rules because I'm not rinsing, but just trying to get it a little bit more, a little brighter for you. Now I've probably mixed up the palette. I should keep that nice and clean so you can see it. All right, there's a nice orange. I'm sure there's a way to do this in fast motion, but I'm just going to do it like this for now. Once I learn editing skills, you won't have to sit through my painting. So we have our orange. We'll just work our way around the color wheel clockwise. So now we have our first secondary color, and let me put some yellow back in there. Okay. Now the next secondary color is, what do we get when we mix yellow and blue? Anyone know? Okay, so the secondary color is green. So we're going to mix, we have our yellow. I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in there. A little bit more blue. And then we'll use those to make our green. So I'm going to rinse that so I don't pollute my yellow. Ah, that's so satisfying. So that's a beautiful green. I would say it's a little bit blue. So I'm going to add just a little bit more yellow to balance it out. But we are going to learn how to make blue-green colors too. But for now, we want to kind of have those straightforward. Here we go. Kind of an even balance of the two colors. I would say that's pretty even balance. Might be a little bit yellow, but take a little bit blue. Okay, so that's green. Probably gonna have to make just a little bit more of it. This is really beautiful paper, but it actually soaks a lot of the paint up. So that's one thing to remember when you're using thick paper, is that it'll soak up more of your paint. And I made a little bit of green in there, but all right. It probably seems like I'm rinsing my brush a lot, and to be honest, when I'm painting on my own, I don't rinse it this much. I just want to keep the colors nice and clear for you. And every time you mix, it's going to look a little bit different. So if I know I really love a color and I want to come back to painting something, I'll just leave it in one of these little palettes for the next time, because it's really hard to make the exact same color, which is cool. It's just, I mean, these colors are pretty unique, but if you want to mix a color, it's just good to know that it can be hard to make the exact amount again. All right, so there we have green. It's starting to look satisfying. So you might guess the last one because it's what we're missing, but the last secondary color we need is what you get when you mix blue and red is purple. So purple is kind of a tricky color for some reason. I'm not often happy with the purple I get when I'm mixing up this traditional color wheel. I will teach you a little bit about the CMYK, the cyan, magenta, yellow, black color wheel. And for some reason, it just seems easier to get a purple, at least a purple that I like. Purples in this one always come out kind of dark, but I shouldn't say that. This is why videos are scary, because you give opinions and, well, I'd love to know what you guys think, but you'll see. I just feel like it's hard to make a really in-between purple, but this one's pretty good. But there is a lot of discussion about the different types of color wheels and what we should be teaching, and some people do think that the CMYK actually is a more accurate representation of color. So I think that's a pretty good purple. It's pretty rich. I should be turning this, but I'm afraid to move the camera, so I'm just gonna awkwardly paint it for you. So here's our purple. And again, you can see that S that I'm made in all the secondary colors. So if you're following along, you should have all your primary and secondary colors painted when we're done with this one. And I've made them different shapes just so you can tell at home kind of what we're doing. All right. So that is your basic color wheel. This is what I would teach probably up until like 3rd grade. And of course, I'm going to forget the exact ages now. I have my little blotting thing, and you can see this. This is a really basic color wheel, just like the one we made. So pretty basic is primary and secondary colors. After about, I would say, I think 5th grade is when I start to teach tertiary, but I'd have to check. So next I do want to teach you the tertiary colors, because tertiary colors start to get kind of more nuanced. They look a little bit less like, nothing against Crayola, but if you're getting older and you want to paint things to look more realistic, you want to use more colors beyond just this. So you're painting, well, I guess I should say, well, that's a whole other conversation, but it's just good to know how to mix lots of different colors. So I want to teach you how to do tertiary colors today. Then I will show you a couple of my favorite color books. And then we will end the video there because I know it's getting long. So tertiary, I hope I'm spelling this right. Tertiary equals 3. And so the best way to remember it is that to make a tertiary color, and I put little T's here and it's triangles for tertiary. To make a tertiary color, you need a secondary color, which is already made of 2 colors, right? And a primary color. So in this case, I have orange, and I'm going to want to make a yellow orange because it's closest to yellow. And on this side, I'm going to want to make a red orange. So it'll be a mix of my primary and my secondary. So it'll be the same here. I'm going to make a yellowy green, and I'm going to make a greeny blue or bluey green all the way around. So I will try and do this a little bit more quickly. I might use this palette just so I can kind of keep this one. I'm going to move this so you can see it. What we're working with over here. So let's just work our way around. So I like to use the lids of these. So I'm going to make orange over here. Make sure you can see that. All right. And now I want a pretty red orange. So I've got my orange, and that means I want to add a little bit more red, but I still want it to be orangey. So take a little bit more of that. What do you think? Maybe a little bit more red. And we can always add on. I think that's a pretty good red orange. I have to figure. I'm going to keep this over here so it's not in our way. All right. I think that's pretty good. It's hard to know. It starts to get more subtle, but I think that's a pretty good red orange because it's got more red in it than this, but it's definitely still orange. So we'll just add a little bit more. And again, these are tertiary colors. So red orange is a tertiary, which means I've taken 3 colors to get this. Okay. You see that? So next, and I'm mixing all my waters up, but next I want to do an orange that has more yellow than red in it. So I'm going to get my yellow. I'll just make a new one so it's kind of, I guess I should show you the mixing part. Get a little bit more yellow. Well, we want a lot more yellow because we don't really want it half and half anymore. We want it to be a more yellowy orange. This is good for like sun or, there you go. So you can start to see that it's not yellow, but it's also not like a pure orange. Let's see. And it helps to kind of just, one thing tertiary colors I think are good for helping you start to train your eye to really see colors. Because sometimes we know we want something to be a different color and we're not sure how to get it. And so when you start to mix tertiary colors, it helps to understand, what do I want this color to, what do I need to add to this color to have more of it, to make it look the way I want it to look. Okay, so it's gotten nice golden. I think that's, maybe we even need just a touch more red to make it orangey. Yeah, I think, oh, and maybe I've made it too. Tertiary colors are tricky, but I think they're a really good practice. So it just takes kind of experimenting. I think that's pretty good balance of orange and yellow, but more on the yellow side. There, okay. I might just hold it like this. So the next one is we want to do a yellowy green. And I should point out that a lot of this mixing set, like this one already had a really pretty red orange. But since we're mixing from scratch, I'm not using those. I'm going to use the same primary ones, but I just want to show you that some color sets come with those. So let's get our green. And you can get pre-made green, obviously, but we're going to stick with the ones that you're mixing so it kind of has that same color tone. So this was our blue. Okay, and so you can see that's pretty green. So we want kind of a lot more yellow so that it's really more of a, there we go. Kind of like a Sprite lemon limey vibe. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. If you're still here, thank you for hanging out and staying for the whole video, but it'll be worth it. It's so satisfying to see a whole color wheel painted. All right, next. Greeny blue, and these are some of my favorite colors. So I'm gonna take this blue. Sorry to keep moving this around. take a little blue over here. Kind of like that these mixing lids have these little ridges because it helps you keep the colors separated. I did get a little bit of orange into this yellow, but right. So that's a nice in-between green. Now we want to add a little bit more blue because we want a blue-green. Ooh, I love that color. I think that's pretty good, don't you? Bluish green? Yeah. Okay. Getting there. We just have 2 more tertiary colors. So next we're going to do kind of a deep violet-y purple because it's in between the blue and the purple. So we're going to take that same blue we've been pulling from. And then we're going to pull in some red. But we want this one to have a lot of blue in it because it's going to be in between these two. So let's put a little bit more. So it's really like a purpley, bluey purple. I think that's pretty good. And I know it's hard to understand, but you can kind of start to see that this one has more purple than red in it because it's kind of got that cooler feeling. And we'll talk about warm colors and cool colors, but all right. Maybe we could have even put a little bit more red. Let's see what it looks like. That's another reason it's nice to have tertiary colors in between because you can really kind of compare them right in between. Sometimes we don't realize how different a color is until we put it next to something else. All right, I think that's pretty good. Last one is we're gonna make a beautiful red violet. Usually when you see, I've been saying purple, but a lot of times when you see color wheels written out, it will say violet, like Roy G. Biv, if you're talking about the rainbow. But violet is a type of purple, basically. So we add some of our blue. And this one we want there to be more red. Another way to think about this is, and sometimes on the back of even paints, they'll have 2 dots of red and 1 dot of blue. So if you want to think about it as like ratios or proportions, color mixing actually has a ton of math in it. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I'm less of a math brain a little bit. But art and math are totally connected. I just need to... okay, so I think that's pretty good. So this is sort of like a red-violet. What do you think? A little bit more red? Just a tiny bit? Maybe could have added a teeny bit more red, but you can tell me in the comments what you think. These two are pretty close. I might even just, I'm being a perfectionist, but I really want you to be able to see the difference. There. All right, so there we go. There's our color wheel. So we have our primaries, secondaries, and our tertiaries. I think that's all for today because I know I've talked a lot, but I do want to show you, and then there's so many fun things you can do with all these colors, but we will get to that in another video. I want to give you a challenge, and then I want to show you a few books. So one thing I did forget to show you is that there are warm colors, and this is from a cool article, and I can put a link to it, but this also helps us think about colors. So there are warm colors and cool colors, and the color wheel is basically split in half. And warm colors are things that are like fiery and make you feel warm, give you a lot of energy. Cool colors are things like snow and ice, and then even this one's kind of starting to get, there is a little area where they kind of get in between, but things that are just have more of like a cool feeling. Water. So what I want you to do for your color wheel challenge, and you can look this up on the internet, and I should type this in the comments, it is called the found object. Oh, let's see if I can do that right. I did it the flip way, but that's okay. Yeah, you get it. I did it the opposite way. So it's called the Found Object Color Wheel. So I basically want you to, and I wish I could print out a color wheel for you, but you can find one online. You're going to take a color wheel, look at it online, and you're going to collect objects in your house that are colors. And then you're going to assemble them in a circle on the floor. It'll make more sense when you look it up. Assemble them. So example, I have a green marker, so my green will be part of my green color wheel. I'm just grabbing random, oh, what do I have? A narwhal. I just happen to have a narwhal next to me. So maybe my narwhal can be part of my blue color wheel part. So you're going to take all sorts of stuff in your house, put it on the floor in a circle, and you're going to assemble your own color wheel. Please send me pictures. I can't wait. It could be stuff from the kitchen. It could be anything that is different parts of it. Let me see if I have an interesting red thing to show you. Yeah, this is one of my tassels from Peru. So maybe these are part of my red part of the color wheel. So you're going to put objects all the way around the circle to make a nice full color wheel. And I really want you to think about our tertiary colors. So things that are reddish orange, things that are yellowy green. That is your assignment for the weekend. Please send them to me and post them. Now I'm going to move these paints and just show you a couple books that I love, that if you are able to find, a lot of them you can find used. I know our local bookstore, Boswell, is still shipping and delivering. So let me move these out of the way. So these are some of my favorite books about color, and I'm just going to show you real quick, and then we will be done. All right. So this is sort of there's kind of a big stack here. I'm going to show you a couple of them. We read this one before. This one doesn't teach you about mixing as much, but it just kind of breaks down the colors. The Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is from the British Museum. This one's from the Metropolitan Museum. They have a similar one. It kind of teaches you to look at pick out colors in different areas. So these two are great. This is a book I really, really, really recommend. This is from the National Gallery in London. It's really beautiful. It has lots of different things. I wanted to show you this page on mixing colors. That's what we did today. They kind of had a different way of doing the color, but you still see those tertiary colors like we did, the primary and the secondary. This is my Bob Ross postcard from Stone Creek. Great local coffee place. So I love this one because this is one of my favorites. This just has all different types of color and the history of color. This is a really cool book. This is one I would recommend. And then if you're a little older and you kind of want to know more about like the history of color and things like that, this is a really cool book. Doesn't have a ton of pictures, but she does have some pictures in the middle. That's a natural history of the palette, and a palette is sort of like, it's like what we mixed on today. And then this one is kind of a good in-between. This is by the same woman. It's for slightly, could be for slightly younger, but for adults too. So this kind of breaks down colors in groups and talks about the history of different colors. This is a really beautiful book too. So I will show you that stack. I really recommend any of the Usborne books. I love. This is a great company. We have our younger ones and this one. So I don't think I showed you all my paint palettes at the end like I promised. I'll just show you two of my mini ones. We will talk about different palette choices another day, but we use pretty traditional ones, but I'll just leave you with a couple of those. And another one, just so you can kind of see. This one has a lot of the tertiary. Anyway, so please make your color palettes. I can't wait to see what you send me. Send me your colored wheels. Hope you have a great weekend.